Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where in the known world you are. Welcome to the next lovely interview informal chat with the Crowns of Avacal. My name is Countess Lilya Bintazir.
And I am Countess Beatrix, and this morning I will be doing an acknowledgement of country. We're acknowledging the lands of the First Nation peoples on which we all reach out to today. Good nobles, we come here together in the spirit of fellowship, deepening of skills and sharing of knowledge. It is in this context that I, Countess Beatrice Maria Malatesta, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather today. We recognise their continuing connection to land and culture and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. Thank you so much, Your Majesties, for joining us today. We're very excited, and after some technical difficulties last weekend with time zone challenges, we made it. We actually made it to this point. So thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's going to be fun.
So we start all of our interviews asking you where your kingdom got its name and device.
You feel it? We had to look this up.
So we were actually part of Antier Kingdom. When we were looking at our name Avacal, they had found a map. It was a Spanish map from the 1500s. And on this map, there was a little place called Avacal. And it was kind of roughly where our place was. So they decided, yeah, that sounds great. Let's use this actual name. No one knows what Avacal means. I asked our populace, I got lots of creative answers about Avacal. But so that's kind of where we got our name. We're kind of located, our kingdom's located mostly in Canada, actually all in Canada. So we are in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Northwest Territories, and some of BC.
Just a little chunk of BC.
Oh.
And your device.
Sorry, B, you go.
I was just curious about your device.
So our device is, we paid homage to our mother kingdom from Antier. So theirs was a lion. So it was created by a gentle who decided that we were going to kind of take the lion, a griffin being a part lion, part eagle. So we were taking the lion of Antier, and they figured Avacal people were fierce and proud and independent like an eagle. So they made a griffin, and then the colors are in homage to Antier. So we have the yellow and the red and the gold.
The yellow and the white background.
Yeah.
Yeah, the checky background.
So we kind of pay homage to Antier still that way. And her name is Fluffy. We actually have a name for our band.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
It can be.
Well, she bites you. So what is your kingdom known for across the known world?
We're pretty new, right? So I don't know if anybody even really knows all that much about our kingdom. We're pretty friendly. We're definitely, the Canadian vibe comes through loud and strong whenever we go down south to go to events. I'd say we're known for, if you travel up here to come to our kingdom, we're known for being hospitable because we understand your travels to get to us because we have to do the same thing to get to you. So I definitely think that's one kind of area that we excel at for sure.
We definitely like to have a good time. Some people say we're also known for partying. We actually quite enjoy ourselves when we're at other kingdoms.
Are there any events that your kingdom is known for? So if we wanted to travel across to visit you, what would you recommend?
Quad War.
Yeah, quad wars are bigger than our big kingdom event. Yeah, it's a war between all three baronies, and then usually the principality. Although it changes from time to time, but it's been going on since the.
This would have been the 20.
Yeah, 25th.
25th year.
It's been going for a while, and there's a castle built on site, like a wooden castle that you can fight around, and they've got a village built for rapier, so they can do their rapier war in a village, and it's quite a neat site. It's very hilly and treed, and it's a permanent site. The landowner is set up, so we use it quite a bit. But yeah, Quad War would be our big event.
People have actually built houses. So we have a merchant row with actual period houses on both sides, and that's where all the merchants are. And people have built houses on site as well that they use when they're there. And
Yeah,
it's actually
permanent camp gates, and
pretty big event for us.
Yeah.
So we would recommend that one a lot.
So you said your kingdom was pretty young, but your event's been going for 20 plus years. How young is your kingdom?
Well, yeah, so our kingdom's 96. 96 was principality. So the kingdom's 10 years old. I think we're the 11th king and queen.
So our kingdom,
5 years old.
So 5 years old.
Yeah,
We were actually elevated to a kingdom in 2015, but we were principality of Antir before that.
Yeah.
So we would be the 11th king and queen.
Wow. And you've both reigned before?
We know.
Yeah, I used this first time. So they're not always like this, Dave. But yeah, I won. I was king in Antir twice. I think 2008 and 2012. I think those are the dates. So I got lucky enough to win crown in Antir and made a duke there. So yeah. So for me, the experience it's still new. I've never been king of Avacal before, so it's a little bit different. But I was lucky enough to be prince a little bit too when we were a crown principality, principality. So I got a little bit of experience there, and I know most of the people here, so it's pretty good. I think I was prince 96.
5 times.
Yeah, 96, 98, 2000, 2002, and 2004. So
He tends to like doing this, as you can tell.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't know any better, and now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, there's things I'd like to do. So here we are. Yeah. All right.
So this is a pretty shitty first reign for you then.
I've heard that this is a very different type of reign. I have nothing to base it off of. We've actually only been king and queen a month and a bit. Like we actually just stepped up or had our handover. We actually didn't even step up. We just kind of had a handover. So August 1st. So yeah, it is what it is.
It's all right. We got lots of time to work on things and talk and discuss things. And when we do get back to what we call face-to-face SCA, then
I'll be an old hack by then because I'll have this will be done.
Well, it'll all be new. You'll be in court and you'll be at that table and it'll all be new again. So I'm hoping it's a rolling. Wow, this is amazing and new, but we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it. So far it's been fun though. It's been fine. Yeah.
And just think of it as an admin reign until you actually get to the face-to-face part. Like you're just learning about the people before you greet them. So that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you going to be doing online courts during this?
We haven't done online court per se. We did do a recorded message to our kingdom a couple of times, and we know that we have a barony Mergenwood that are in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, mundanely. They're going to do an online event and see how that goes, and they wanted to do an online court, and we'll be a part of that. But we haven't planned a royal court yet to hand out awards or do anything. I don't think we're quite at that point yet. So, and if we do hit that point, our populace are pretty vocal. They'll probably let us know that they're jonesing for some kind of court SCA. But right now, we've done online peerage meetings with all of our peerages, and then we've got a curia set in November that we're gonna put together and do a Zoom meeting curia. But we haven't done online court, full online royal court yet. So.
What's a curia?
So that's the group meeting with all the kingdom officers and the crown, and members of the populace are more than welcome to come to it. And it's our kingdom business meeting. It's what it would be.
Okay.
What do you call
it? We
don't
have those here.
Oh, good for you.
Yay!
Well done. Well done. Yeah, excellent. We might not coming out of this, right? We might just be like, let's scratch these meetings. They don't.
And done.
Yeah, they're a pretty good opportunity, I think, for people to have their say. The officers give their reports verbally, and if there's questions, there's quick Q&A. I think in the past, if you back up, there was a lot of this is a little bit more open, you know, letting people see how the business of the kingdom works essentially. So for us, it works, maintains a lot of transparency within the kingdom about what's going on. So we welcome the populace to it, but there's not a lot of people that show up. I think the ones that do are you'd find are like the hard workers that are involved in a lot of different things that go to Curia too. So I skip it because it's on Sunday, but now that I'm in the Crown, I might make it to one or two.
Anymore, no.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of it being transparent, because I think an awful lot of people who play in the SCA are unaware of all of the work that goes on behind the scenes to keep their game afloat. And I mean, before we went live, we were talking about membership and the fact that people are tight because they're not working, but we still need that membership so that we can justify all of the things that they don't see, you know, like it's untangible unless you go to one of those meetings. So I say encourage your populace to turn up.
Yeah, and we agree. And the layers of work, like the amount of work that goes on at the board level, right, to keep the game moving, and then the amount of work that goes on at a volunteer level, like the Curia that we have, and then the work that goes on for kings and queens when you're, you know, working and all the volunteer people that you have there. It's insane. Like they say volunteer organization, and they are not kidding. Like there are people who donate a lot of time to keep the wheels turning on all levels of the SCA, and it's very amazing and very humbling. And I think that was one of the big things that we talked about when we won Crown was, you know, that's our job is to try and see as much of that as we can, and then reward it wherever we think we can. At the very least, to tell people thank you for all the work that they're doing. It's amazing. Like I am constantly amazed by the SCA and how people are, how generous they are with their time and volunteering. It's absolutely blows me away every time. It's great.
I'm Current Kingdom Seneschal, completely understand, and I'm absolutely the same. The amount of time and effort that is put into the game when we can meet physically, and I find it even more so now that we can't. Like for my position, there's been a lot more administrative work, and part of the reason for doing the interviews with the Crown is you guys don't get to go out and do the fun stuff with the people. You're doing a lot of the admin work.
Yeah, we've commented on that too. I mean, our Kingdom Seneschal here, he's working hard. We know him quite well, and it's because of the administrative changes that are going on. It's a lot of overload, and even with what we just call COVID time, like spare time or things like that, without the SCA running full tilt, there's still a ton of stuff getting done behind the scenes. Even though the SCA has kind of put a stop to events, there's still a lot going on. So the administrative part of it is really ramped up, and that's good. Hopefully, when we come out with those administrative changes in place, and then we can see how they play out in the live SCA that we've been calling it, right, when we come back together.
So did you have any shtick that you were hoping to do for your reign that kind of got put to the side because of the pandemic that we are all facing? Just a little bit
of a shtick thing kind of idea. Oh, go ahead. It's like a lot with you.
That's okay.
I had planned, being a Middle Eastern persona, I had actually about 12 drummers who were going to come up, and I had several Middle Eastern dancers who were going to come up. We had a whole spiel going on about, you know, because Vic wasn't actually in Avacal for a while. He actually lived in Eldemir, and so he just moved back. So we were going to kind of stick on kind of him returning and being a prodigal son kind of idea. And I wanted to make hobby horses for the kids, like little camel hobby horses, and they could drive in on the camel hobby horses with my guards with like little spears.
Like a blend of Middle Eastern and Norse kind of retinue, and we had a big thing planned, but pop.
So somebody needs to gift you, you know, that is it the Byzantine Empire where the Norseman scrolled his "I was here"? Somebody needs to gift you that so that you, as as a feature of largesse that you were here at this point.
It's also been interesting though too, like so normally you would step up and you would have new outfits and new, like be in that mode, and we hit, I don't know, like for Aisha it's all new, but for me I was like, oh, all of a sudden I'm king. Like, oh, okay. And it wasn't like we haven't worn our step up garb because now they're still sewing it, right? Yep. So it better be spectacular. Like,
we're looking at you.
Like it's just been a different flavor of rain right now. I mean, we have the crowns, but we haven't taken oaths from any of our peers or the populace because we can't do that. So that's something that, I mean, you miss the flavor of that part of the SCA, and that also really ramped up for me how valuable that part is and how much it was to me without having it. So like we said, we hope when we come back to Real People SCA that's the first thing we get to do is like a half of a coronation, right, where we do the oaths of fealty, and that's just on hold. So
I think for Aisha, when you finally do have all of those peers swear fealty to you in person, there is that moment that you've been constantly looking at, this is the role I'm going to do, and then it becomes very suddenly very real, and the impact of all of those amazing, inspiring people swearing fealty to you, to the kingdom through you, you just go, oh, and there's a little bit of a moment where you go, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. And then you kind of go, no, I can. So that you need to contact me and tell me how you felt when that finally happens, because
we'll have a conversation about it.
What have I done?
Yeah. But that's been really kind of neat, is to see being king and queen and talk to Aisha about it through Aisha's eyes, because it's new for her. Right? It's my third time as king, and granted I've never been king of Avacal, but it's been fun to compare notes and to talk about, well, what did you think of that? She'll tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's been really good. For me, that part's been really fun. So
I had an actual really, really cool experience. So one of my friends here in Avacal decided that because I didn't get to see the other roses and our loves or anything like that, she actually created a known worldwide meet and greet. So she invited the roses from the entire world to come, and we had a Zoom meeting to come meet me. But we had there were about 20 or 25 ladies who were all former queens who would come, and we just chatted for almost 2 hours. And it was actually really, really, really nice. We should do this more often. Like, this was fun. It was just a nice way to meet people you would never meet before, right?
Yeah.
So that was something I quite enjoyed. I mean, if there's any good thing out of COVID, it's that kingdom, all the kingdoms are getting smaller, right? Like, we're all interconnecting on a way that we would never have before.
Yeah, I thought that was really special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the roses here came and gifted Aisha. How many roses were there?
There was about 24 roses. This
was very special.
And then they all wrote messages for me, and they actually put it in a little book, and they had like little gifts and cards, and just the love of it was like made me cry. I cried a lot. But it was so sweet, like just something unexpected, and just really touched me a lot. Like, just the outpouring of love and support that was there.
So if they're listening, thanks, because I'm like, oh, I didn't get it at all. But thank you for that. I was like, awesome, thank you for that. It was very touching. Not something that I would have thought of at all.
So are you friends or a couple in mundane life?
We're a couple.
Yeah.
We've been dating for forever. A long time.
We've been friends for about 30 years, and just,
And finally the penny dropped.
We won the crown, and then how many months later we moved here?
Like 3 months later I moved in.
It's all new.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
So we won the crown, and then
I moved in right when COVID around in Canada happened, so I moved in like in March.
Yeah. So it's just, the whole thing has been bang, 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 bang. It's been great.
You haven't killed each other yet, so it must be working okay.
That's what my mom said. My mom said, "You'll know by the end of COVID if this thing's gonna last forever or not." You'll have it figured out. So,
I think pretty much if you can survive COVID moving into that space, then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think so.
yeah, that'll be all right.
Isha, what was your impression when he won crown? Did you go, "What have you done?" Or were you like, "Yep, I'm good for this"? Like,
I, in all honesty, that day I was kind of oblivious to it. Like, I'm like, oh yay, he's fighting well, yay. It didn't actually dawn on me that, wait a minute, what's he doing? Till he was about there was 4 people left, and he had he had full lives. Like, he was yeah. And I'm like, oh, where's my cell phone? I gotta talk to somebody.
That's good, thank you. That's a good summation of crown.
I know that feeling really well.
I think someone passed me a drink somewhere off the corner at one point, said, "Here, drink this," and yeah. My one friend, she was queen at the time, and so I remember her grabbing my hand and like squeezing really tightly because I was like shaking. So she was like holding onto my hand as they were fighting the finals. It was awesome.
My consort won in New Zealand because Lockhart got the two countries, and I had traveled with him several times to crown events because he had a previous consort, and this was the first crown that he entered for me. And my speech to inspire him went along the lines of, "I don't think I'll be doing this again because I'm getting pretty bored of watching you in a crown tournament." and then he insisted on drinking White Russians the night before the tournament with friends. And I went, "Oh, so you're going to go in hungover? That's awesome. I'll tell you what, we'll have to talk about whether I'm going to do this with you. Like, go to a crown event. You can go on your own. I'll just hang at home." And he went, "Oh, okay." And then he won. And so it was like to pull all the feet out of my mouth. And he just smiled at me. I went,
That's awesome.
so yes, inspirational. That's me.
I think I had an inspirational speech for him when he fought. So, I think you were up on me on that one.
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. We had talked about it a little bit, and we had it kind of figured out. And I'm the same. Like, I went, Taisha said, "Look, I might not win, but let's go fight in crown and let's have a good time." So yeah, it's not like I walked in and was like, "Okay, this is it's a guaranteed thing." I mean, still have to fight the tournament, still have to win. So it's a little bit of a smaller tournament. On tier had, I think the first crown I won, it was like 124 people in the list or something like that. And I think, yeah, our crowns here now, they're down to like around 30, 35. Yeah, I think this 40. One had 35. So by the time you hit round 6, you're well on the way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's a really big list compared to what we have.
We're at the around the 30 mark as well, because when you commit to doing a crown in Lockhart, you're pretty much committing to traveling the distance of our kingdom, which is, very vast. So it's definitely a financial decision, as well as do we have the time to commit to the kingdom for that level of time? So it doesn't mean that the calibration.
Yeah, we think about it before we do it. I don't know if I'd want to a crown in the kingdom that just goes, I'll fight, I won, that doesn't really care. I mean, it's been a fairly high level of excitement in our kingdom every time we have a crown tournament, because it's new for them, right, to have their own king and queen. And I'm sure one day that'll taper off a little bit, but right now it's still fairly fresh. So it's been a good experience. The people here have been really positive. So yeah.
Do you find that people are not as familiar with you when you're crowned?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, it depends which group, right? Like, I think we have a really good thing here where, and it came out of kind of the crucible that the kingdom was fired in, where when we were a principality, our first prince and princess, it was Duke Rorik, and he kind of formalized the we were the way that On Tier was to I think, a little bit of a higher degree, where they had deference for the crown and they understood what it meant. And that idea of treat your peers as, treat your equals as peers, your peers as betters, and your crown worthy of the respect that they deserve, kind of thing. So we've always maintained that. When we became our own kingdom, it was kind of my view that it might have dropped a little bit, because now the people that are king and queen all the time are your friends. But I still think there's a very high level of the way we treat a crown here, because they are involved in everything, right? There's not a board that runs everything in our kingdom. It's the crown working with the kingdom officers. The crown are a big part of it. So we've been lucky that way. The way people that respond. There's back in camp, if you went back to Royal Camp, I mean, not that we've had one, but our friends, there's deference when we're in public, but then back in camp, it's kind of a little more laid back, but there's always that overtone. That's been my experience when I was, in Ontario. When I was king of Ontario,
hats off time.
Yeah, when I was king of Ontario, though, we would go to groups that hadn't seen a crown in 2 years, because they're so far away and crown just hadn't traveled there. Well, that's a different experience. They were ecstatic. In our own area, they were just happy that someone that they knew from their principality had won crown, so it was the same kind of thing. I think now we're a little more laid back with royalty, but not to the extent that I've experienced in other kingdoms, where royalty are more of a figurehead, I think, and they've had them for so long. So again, we're new, right? There's a new car smell to the whole thing still, so we'll see.
So how did you both get started in the SCA? Because we ask these questions because obviously there are different people with different histories and lengths of history in the SCA, and kind of an open question that makes people go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't do that because years down the line I might be crowned. So.
I actually started in the SCA in 1992. So for me, I actually had a big love of Robin Hood. That was kind of my draw. And a friend, actually, his ex-girlfriend was a friend of one of my best friends. And she's like, you should come see this group. It's really, really cool. I think you'll like it. They have archery. And I'm big in archery. So I went out to an event and they put a bow in my hand that day. And I was like, yeah, I'm here. This is where I need to be. Right. And I've been playing ever since. I usually do combat archery. I do a lot of archery. I do a lot of Scribble here at the group as well. But yeah, that the whole community and my family's here now, right? Like I have my chosen family. I've loved the SCA since 92.
Yeah, I started in 87 in a little tiny town. I think there was 6 people in the society, and 2 of them had come from Lethbridge, which is like down south. When they found it in university, and when they came back, they started a group in the hometown. And so I've been 87. I was just not old enough to fight, but by the time I got my armor built, it was 88, and we were fighting. And then I just ever since I've just been in the SCA. It's been the hobby, the one main hobby that I love it. So we met each other in
92.
And you moved in 3 months after winning.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lesson there somewhere.
We're fast movers, can't you tell? It's only been since 92. Come on.
So there's no rush. You can take your time. Just relax. I'm sure that's
No pressure whatsoever. Right. Can you tell me about your personas?
Yeah, I mean, I adopted when I started in the SCA, I had a Crusader persona, and then I was in a household where they were all a hard drinking household, and they all changed to Norse personas. They wanted to be Vikings. That was their big thing. And so pick a Viking name. You got to have a Viking name. And severely inebriated, I think I just picked Vic, because I just took Viking and chopped the ing off, and I'm like, I'll just be Vic. so my persona is predominantly flip-flops a little bit. I like Icelandic, kind of Norse, but then I do a lot of early Vendel culture too, a lot actually, and some of the Anglo-Saxon artwork that's in it. I mean, I'm a laurel and a pelican as well as a knight, so I do a lot of jewelry and metal work, and so Anglo-Saxon, certainly Vendel culture, metal work is what I do as well too. So that because I'm making the stuff, that tends to be a kind of another sort of persona that I adopt.
I started the SCA actually as Anglo-Saxon until at an event. What happened? Yeah. At an event, I started belly dancing several years later and decided maybe I want to do a Middle Eastern persona. How do I get rid of my Anglo-Saxon persona? Because I had a whole different name. And at the time, he was sitting as Prince. And my SCA father had gone to a war and died and decided he was wanted to change his persona. So he wrote a will that he read in court. And in court, it said, my name was Tamara at the time. Tamara, I send you to a nunnery to pray for my soul. I didn't know this was happening. So suddenly in court, I get called, being told I'm going to a nunnery. So I was like, okay, Tamara can go to a nunnery. And out came Aisha. So that's kind of how I made my persona. I do Turkish. Generally, I try to do late period Turkish, but with the rain, I'm trying to look a little earlier so I can kind of make up with him. But generally, I do more late period Turkish, Ottoman Turkish kind of idea.
Oh, like 1,000, right? Like 1,000.
Yeah, something like that.
1100s.
Period.
We had way too much fun together.
There's nothing wrong with
Tamara,
that.
though. Poor Tamara's still stuck in that.
Tamara's stuck in the nunnery.
Yeah.
But, she comes out every once in a while to an event, you know.
Yeah.
She's doing a lot of praying.
For the kingdom. Yeah.
And look what it's got us.
So we were talking about how we're connecting online. How are you connecting with your kingdom, and what is inspiring you at the moment with how people have evolved on the run with the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean the we've had, as like we said, the peers meetings have been the one thing we've kind of put together. Other than that, we haven't had a ton of online contact. SCA was. We've been a part of. Well, I've been a part of like some of the Zoom interviews and stuff like that, but not a lot right now with the kingdom. It's been a lot more phone calls and talking with officers, and then like it or hate it, Facebook, right? For what's going on in the kingdom and where people are and what they're doing, to kind of get an overview of that. But we plan to do more Zoom meetings with officers and with our populace. We've talked about online courts.
I kind of want to do a Zoom Queen's tea with the populace. Just kind of pick a day and go, hey, I'm going to be in Zoom if anyone wants to come and visit, and just sit and visit and chat. We have Griffin Eye News is one of our big ones in our kingdom, and they do a lot of interviews with people, just populace, and just that kind of interconnection that way as well. So they're a big part of our kingdom right now, is in connecting people. Online classes, we definitely have a lot of classes, and a lot of our populace teaching classes to each other, and we have bardic nights that are happening, and online meetings. I plan to try to teach a Middle Eastern dance class on Zoom for people, kind of idea. So we've got some things in plan, in progress. So
yeah, not so much like leading off with it as king and queen, but just sort of participating in it.
As one of the populace.
Yeah.
So when did you win the Crown Tourney?
February Crown.
So February Crown. So you were Crown Prince and Princess for about 4 months.
Yeah, we were supposed to step up. So we won February Crown, and we're supposed to step up in June. Yeah.
It did not happen.
And then we would have had September Crown.
Right.
We would have had chosen our successors already.
Yeah, that's the one interesting thing there was there's no one waiting in the wings. So if we hit a point where we're like, we can't do this anymore, or there's a life change or something, it goes to Castle, and we'd have to put Castle in it or something. So we had to really talk about that when we were talking about like step up times and what we were going to do. And the Crown before us, they did an excellent job in terms of keeping everything together, but they were hitting that point where they were done, and so we needed to step in, and hopefully we got it done in time. But yeah, just thinking about, okay, if we step up and we're the king and queen, it might be a year, it might be 2 years before we can have a crown tournament. What's the process, and how does that work? So it was a little bit of thinking, and can we do it, and making sure that we had at least thought about it and talked about it.
Yeah, I understand that. We've had to cancel our crown tourney, our May crown, and then midwinter. So our crown have been sitting since January.
That's a long haul.
It is, and we're anticipating a November crown that we are supposed to be running, but everything is just so fluid right now. It really is.
You can't predict it. You can't say, oh, well, our numbers, our COVID numbers are dropping, so we'll be okay. We've had like a little bit of a spike with school and stuff too. So
yeah, well, we've got one state that they are restricted to a 5 kilometer movement outside of their house, and they're only allowed out of the house 1 hour a day for exercise or to go and get groceries. So there's been major lockdowns, and we still have states that have their borders closed to other states.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and we encompass 2 countries, and Australia has closed borders. New Zealand has closed borders.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The discussion for us was are we okay with doing the administrative work that we talked about, and literally none of the fun stuff like camping and courts and hangout awards and fealty and all that. Are we okay with that? How long can we do that? Right?
Yeah. So. And not getting any of those "no shit, there I was" stories that come with being proud. Yeah. So we ask, is there any specific award that you are proud of, or your kingdom has, that isn't a peerage but means a lot to you when you give it out, or that you are waiting to give out because that you've seen it given out before and it carries that emotional attachment?
Do you have anything? I mean, it's all new for you, so
yeah, it's all new for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there was nothing really like that was in the pipeline in terms of nobody was on vigil or anything like that for periods or anything like that. When we stepped up, it was kind of there'd been enough time that there wasn't anyone who was really like in line for peerages and things like that. There was discussion, but no one was like, yeah, this is our next peer, and then offered, and then COVID hit, so we were lucky that way. We're just doing what we normally do, which is watching and kind of listening and talking to people about what's going on in the background. Because when we come out of this, there'll be a few people that I'm like, okay, they've done an exceptional service to the kingdom, and we should be discussing that. And I've watched, there's a few fun ones. I don't want to give it all away, but there's some people that are doing great things with, in the diversity, equity, inclusiveness to bring that to our kingdom. So we've talked about, Artemisia has an award for that type of thing, which I thought was really interesting. So we've kind of looked at that. I think I was there in their court when they handed out the first that award for the first time. It was really kind of a neat experience and what the award meant. And there's also a lot of cool persona development happening right now because people have time in our kingdom, so we're keeping an eye on that too. So yeah, I'm sure when we get back to real SCA that there'll be a flurry of, because we were dealing with a little bit of we thought burnout in terms of like people that were available for retinue and people's involvement. I mean, we still had the kingdom core that were working hard, but we sort of thought, what's our plan for the reign? It was to throttle back a little bit to kind of look internal, not external. We thought we had a lot of crowns that were going to like Gulf Wars and Pennsic and bringing Avacal to the main stage, and we thought it might not be a bad idea to take 6 months and just look internal and relax a little bit, go to local events, make sure that the people know that we're here, have smaller stripped down retinues. We had 2 head of retinue, like 2 people for our head of retinue, so they could kind of switch off. And they work together exceptionally well. They're both good friends. So things like that was our main plan. And now we're like, yeah, that's out the window, and everybody's foaming at the mouth to come back to SCA events. So we shouldn't have a problem there. So we'll see. I hope our first event back out, there's 500 people at it, to be honest, but we'll see.
Well, it's kind of worked well for you. You know, you haven't been able to travel and focusing back on your kingdom and your populace.
Yeah. So we'll
And
see.
there'll be a flurry of arts and sciences happening at home. And, you know, when we finally do come out of like lockdown, you'll be like, when did you make that? Tell me about it.
And that was, we were talking with friends, and that was the joke. So we're going to, because with my group of friends, they're like, we're going to come out of the COVID and we'll all be beautiful. Our armor will be new, and we will fight like shit because we're not practicing. So we'll all look amazing, but we'll all just be horrible, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually.
But man, we'll have nice garb, because I know when I was in lockdown before I started working again, I was just sewing. I think I have a lot of new garb.
Yeah,
not so much. Yeah.
My garb has.
I have a lot.
But yeah. So.
Stop it.
All right.
I'm going to ask you what one of your favorite, like you've both been playing for a very long time. What is one or two of your favorite memories that you like to share?
They don't have to be appropriate.
like just personal memories, or like our together memory stuff.
And
like
that's up to you. So it's a like what are one of your favorite stories to share with people?
So yeah, I mean, I could just think of like personal moments in the FC. For me, there's been like a ton of them where, you know, you have those moments where between friends that are just, you're not going to get it any other way. Whether it's the first time I was king and I turn around and look at the army and it's like 9 or 10 of my friends in the front row, and I'm like, oh, I should survive, right? They all want to keep me alive. I'm the king, or little things like that. But I do think one of my favorite memories was I'd always been surprised at how I'd, not advanced is not the right word, but just how I'd sort of gone through the SCA. And because I never thought when I started, I mean, I didn't even know we had knights and laurels and pelicans and kings and queens. They had to like explain it all to me, and I don't think I saw the crown until probably 3 or 4 years I'd been in the SCA, and they were, kings and queens were like, oh my god, right? Like they had this aura about them, and because you were new. And I mean, the kings especially, I kind of understood the king because he fought, you know, and so they were way better than me. They could just hit me at will. How do you get that good? How does this happen? And then the queens were just, oh my god, like I have no connection. I don't know what to talk to you about. So I'm just gonna stand here and please don't talk to me. And I was just in complete, like, not pure fear, but just in awe of our crowns. And then I never thought I would get knighted. I never thought I would be a triple peer. I never thought I'd win crown and on tier. These were just things that happened, and I'm glad they did. But even with all that, we went to Estrella War, and I bought my knight a Thor's hammer just to say thank you as a gift. And when I gave it to him, I'm like, hey. So the backstory is, anytime I tried to make something for my knight, it wouldn't work. Like it would fail, or the paint would run, or something bad would happen. So he always got these half-assed kind of things that I had made, and everything else I made was beautiful. Granted, he's got a fairly nice ducal circlet that I made, so eventually that works out. But so I gave him this Thor's hammer, and I said, I just wanted to say, like, thanks for being my knight. You were like an inspiration. It was just one of the best things that I've ever done was to take a belt from you and go on that journey. And I said, I know we didn't train a lot together like some knights and squires do. You know, I know that you said just go fight, and because we were far apart, like we were like 14, 15-hour drive apart, if not more. So I gave him this Thor's hammer, and he looked at me and he said, I don't think you understand. He's like, you've done things in the SCA that I will never do. And you're like, my hero. And I really am glad that we did this. It was one of the smartest things. And I was like, I couldn't even talk, I think, at that point. And I think that for me was like a blown away moment at the SCA where, yeah, it's a game, and yeah, it's made up, but the emotion that goes into it isn't, right? That part's real, and the friendships and the connections, those are real things. And that's why I think I've always just really liked the game. And that was a moment for me where I was like, yeah, that's no matter what happens from this point on, I've done what I wanted to do in the SCA. Everything else after this is just because I idolize my knight. Like I still do. I don't know if you can tell. And I was just blown away that would happen, because it never dawned on me that that's what I was doing, in the SCA. Yeah, that's me.
Wow.
How do you follow that?
I don't think I can beat that. Holy mackerel.
You're exceptionally happy when I won crown.
I was exceptionally happy when you won crown.
That's the peak of your SCA experience.
Next question. Moving on.
You did mention, sorry, Your Majesty.
That's okay.
So what
tell
is
your
your
story.
inspirational story?
I have little less dramatic and big grander stories. So my favorite moments are actually I've met a lot of some of my really closest friends in the SCA, and I like to get into trouble, maybe just a little bit with shenanigans. And so we were at Estrella, and I was actually a yeoman for our Baroness at the time, Shunsei, and she decided that we were going to go get into trouble that night. So first she stripped me of my clothes because I was wearing too many jingles for her. We weren't going to get into trouble with too many jingles on. So she stripped me of my belt, and right, can't have bells and stuff. So we were going around Estrella, just finding all the random parties and getting into trouble. But we weren't actually using our names. We were using rival baronesses' names. So suddenly we were baronesses from another barony in our principality and using their names to get into trouble. And then the next morning we heard about these baronesses who were getting into trouble. We're like, oh, what the heck? What happened there? I have lots of those kind of really good memories. Yeah, troubles.
I was at that event.
You were at that event.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's
only event I've ever been at where you got in more trouble than I did.
I know.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was great. Estrella is a good event to go to. If you can ever go to a outer kingdom event, it's kind of rivals Pennsic. I haven't been to Pennsic. I plan to try to go, but Estrella is pretty fun too.
That's a good story.
I don't know if I would trust all of us together. Just saying.
I think I'd look forward to that actually.
So much trouble, so many shenanigans.
Pretty spectacular part of the SCA though, right? Is that you get in a group of people and you start talking and you realize how much you have in common with them, and how instantaneous it's let's go do something. Let's create some shenanigans. Let's go, right? Because most people in the SCA, that seems to be the type. Right there, you make friends really quickly in the SCA because you all have a common kind of interest. It's really neat. Great. I
have made so many instant friends.
Yeah,
I really have, and it's just amazing. It really, and I'm in awe of the friendship circle that I have just because of how big it is.
Yeah, and then it's not. They become these quick, like half hour or an hour long meetings at events, and then everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So you get, an hour or two sometimes with those people, and then you're back to, trying to do this other stuff in the SCA. It's an interesting kind of thing. So I call it drive-by friending sometimes, because you don't get a lot of, and then all of a sudden you go on a road trip and you're stuck in a car for 11 hours, and then you really find out what they're made out of. It's an interesting.
That's always been the part of the SCA I love the most. The SCA I love the most is the fact that I can go anywhere and go, I'm part of the SCA, and you're welcomed in. Like, people anywhere, if you go, I'm part of the SCA, they're like, your family, come, we'll give you, we'll have a bed for you, we'll feed you, we'll shelter you. Like, that is what I love about the SCA, is that family no matter where you go.
Yeah, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
It extends to whether you're brand new in the SCA or you're the Crown or whatever.
I do have a question for you. You made a mention of putting, like, we were talking about reverence to crowns, and we have quite a lot of peer fear that still happens over here. And I have to say, I have a little bit of idol worship of Rivkin, and I did go to an event where she was, and I couldn't bring myself to meet her. And this was like 3 years ago. I had been crowned. I am a I'm a pelican, and I just couldn't do it. Do you still have those moments with people?
Do you?
Well, do I have peer fear? Because I'm not a peer of any sort. I actually don't, in all honesty, have peer fear. Mostly because I realize that the peers that I might talk to might share my geekdom, right? Or so I can go and go, hey, there's somebody who's going to teach me something. And I really like to be taught stuff. I love classes. That's like my passion is learning stuff. So I see peers as people who can have something to teach me, and they want to, and something I can talk to them about. And kings and queens have always been, maybe fear towards kings and queens a little bit, because again, they're your royalty. But at night, just because of how Avacal's always been at night, nighttime comes and you're all partying together. So that kind of fear goes away, because you see them across the thing and they're drinking a beer and they're having a good time just like anyone else. So I think I have less peer fear just because of my personality and who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I think I still do a little bit.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it's just part of my personality too, right? Like sometimes I just look at them and like, man, I can't believe we're friends. Like you're so amazing at all this stuff, and I'm just like gorfing my way through, whatever. And then the things that I say, they're like, I keep you around. They probably just keep me around because I'm funny. But yeah, I think I don't think I ever lost that. I mean, when I was knighted by Thorin, and Duke Thorin had been king on tier 6 times, and I mean, I still to this day, I mean, I have every right, and he knighted me. We have this base level of I can go talk to him when I see him at events. I'm like, I don't want to bother him, but I kind of want to slide up. Hey, how's it going? How are you? And he would come and talk to me because of that connection with me, making me a knight, because I understand that connection because I got to knight people when I was king on tier. So now when I see someone that I knighted, I'm like, I wonder how they're doing, and I want to go talk to them. But yeah, I still usually it's people that have that presence in the kingdom, like Duchess Ludviga for me for the long. Well, still, I mean, just to go and talk to her, she's an impressive person. The things that she's done in the SCA, but even like people that were on my retinue, like Ashaksi was head of my retinue the second time I was king, and I'm just in awe of what she can do and put together, and the creative talent that she has. And same with Rivkin. Just the way that they do things, it's pretty impressive. And it extends. It used to just be for me when I started, it was people that fought, right? I'd be like, wow, they fight so good. And now it's extended to like all of the periods. I watch some rapier fighters. I'm like, man, that's great costumes, and they're very skilled and very quick. And I want to go talk to them about it, but I don't know who they are. And I think I'm like that with most people.
So obviously I have to drag him to go meet people, because I'm the
all the
more
time.
outgoing person. Even though he talks a lot, I'm the most outgoing personality of the two of us.
Yeah, if I'm comfortable, I can talk about whatever. But most of the time, I'm an introvert who forces myself to be extroverted. That's what the SCA is kind of
I have peer fear, and I am. People think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not the extrovert.
Yeah. And now I think the interesting thing there is, I think for all of us, is you're on the other side of the fence as a peer. And so now I'm the same person that I was when I started, but I'm more than that in the society. And so people are looking at me and they're like, I don't want to go talk to Duke Vic. Like, holy cow, like how, he doesn't want to talk to me. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, hey, cow. So it's a different thing that I think if you're just aware of it, it helps you kind of go be more outgoing and meet new people. And because you're on the opposite side now, you are the peer that they want to talk to, but maybe don't have the opening to go do it. So you have to create that opening for them. And I think that's just kind of not a duty of the peer, but I think it's something we can work on as peers to make sure that we're accessible in some way, shape, or form, to kind of do away with peer fear. Because I know we had a big discussion here about cliquey, about people being cliquey and in cliques and little groups. And the group of people that I hang out with, we're all super tight. I mean, we've all been together since like 94, 95. So, you know, I mean, the jokes, you don't even have to say it and somebody's laughing at it. And for people that aren't in that circle, it's been very tough to crack that. And so, and I would always say, we're not that cliquey, but we are. And so now what we're trying to do is maybe just acknowledge that and say, okay, you know, we live this little privileged peer circle life thing that we're doing. Let's go out and be more open and accessible and talk to people and kind of bridge that gap a little bit more. So I don't think of myself like I do the peers that I worship, that I was in awe of, but I know that there are probably people here who want to come and talk to me and they're like, nah, I just don't want to bother. I don't want to bother them. So we're working on that.
I don't have so much peer fear. I have populist fear. Like that first court where I have to talk to people, I'm gonna like I'm worried I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth and oh my God, what are they gonna think of me? And so I have that fear. Peer fear, not so much. Populist fear, real thing.
Yeah, we're literally the opposites in that. Like it's funny, like in court, I don't have a problem. Mostly because I think for me, when I talk in court, it's straight off. Like I'm not making anything up. I'm just doing what I think is the right thing to do at that time. So yeah, but then we get in a group at a party and I don't want to talk to anybody. And Aisha has to drag me around.
You may have had many years of experience, though, Your Majesty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same as I did the first time I was prince, as I did, you know, and do now as king. I feel the same, and like in charge, but still like trying to figure it all out. So I don't know. We're just making it up as we go along. Hopefully, there's not too many missteps.
My favorite line is "Fake it till you make it."
Yeah. And I would like to say too that I think that's one of the key elements of the society, at least the society that I grew up in. Because I was 17 when I started. Like I grew up in the NCA. They let you make mistakes, and then they help you to become better. And I think that with a lot of the discussion that's happening online, there didn't seem to be a lot of room at times for it. Seemed more argumentative and less trying to understand where the other person's coming from. And I think the strength of the SCA is that they let you make a mistake. Now, granted, you can't make the same mistake 9 times in a row, but they're willing to overlook that you made a mistake, educate, and then say, "No, I'm trying to do better." Right? That's, for me, that was the whole purpose of this group. You could try things, you could do different things, and people would tell you, you know, hey, maybe when you're talking to the crown, you don't do it this way, or you know, maybe when you're in a tournament, instead of fighting this way, you fight like this because it's nice, it's nicer, it's more polite, it's the right thing to do. And you would learn and get educated. And I think that's something we need to focus back on and say, okay, I mean, you made a mistake. Maybe we can educate you and take that out of your repertoire and make you a little bit better. So it's certainly happened to me my whole SCA career. So I think that's one of the SCA strengths.
We have a Duke in my local group who has been playing for a while, and he's obviously a very high-end fighter. And Duke Gabriel has basically openly said to people, own your mistakes and tell them to people, because if you own it, nobody can use it against you. And it's showing people that you've evolved past that one thing that you've done, whether it be throw up in your shoes after a night out at the tavern, or whether it be, you butt wrapped somebody, and swore on the field. Like if you own it, nobody can take it from you, and they can't corrupt it to be something that.
I think that's an impressive statement. I'm probably going to borrow that. I do think too that as we talk about the society, and they talk about memberships and looking for new members, that we have to remember that when we came in, we weren't this polished SCA diamond. I mean, I wore my fighting surcoat as a costume for I think 2 years with a cowboy hat and ran around the SCA thinking I was awesome. And I'm pretty sure, well, I've talked to some of them now, they're old peers that must have looked at the whole group of us and been like, what the hell are these kids doing? But they let us grow up and they let us mature. And I've had a conversation with one of them, a Baron, and he's like, "Man, I hated you when you started in the SCN." I'm like, "That's fair. We hated you too, but we grew to understand each other." And I think that was important, right? And we have to remember that when new people come in, they're not coming in at this level; they're coming in at this level. But we can get them there slowly. We just got to work with them and let them make mistakes and then educate. I honestly believe that that's the lifeblood of our society. So.
And the people
before
coming
we
in.
start asking you questions about Australia, I have to ask Alicia about her coat and where she got fabric from.
Well, the fabric is actually from a store called Batia's. It's an actual beautiful little Indian fabric store. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get that online. It's like they don't believe online. Yeah, so it's yeah. So I actually do a lot of my shopping not online. I do actually from sari shops and things like that. And Calgary and Edmonton actually both have really great little stores like that where they have the great fabric. So yeah, this is like a late period Persian tapestry fabric that I got from there. It's cotton, and then my buttons were actually made by Caiaphas in Montagnard. He actually hand cast them for me, and then Viscountess Morgan actually printed my veil for me, and so kind of a costume of love actually. So
yeah, Morgan really jumped on the bandwagon with the Persian Turkish element. She's right in there, so it was really good.
Yeah, she prints a lot of stuff for me, so it's just I love wearing her stuff. So yeah, sorry guys, you can't buy the fabric online. I can try to show it to you if you talk nicely to me, but you gotta talk nicely to me. And maybe bribe it a little bit. I like chocolate.
Oh, we have Tim Tams. Don't worry. We will bring those Tim Tams over. Yeah, and it's Australian chocolate. It's just amazing.
I don't even know what that is. So
really,
yeah.
Australian and New Zealand chocolate is just awesome.
And now I have to go just for the chocolate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then get into shenanigans with you guys.
Yeah. Yes. Did you know much about our kingdom before we invited you to join us for a chat?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I did actually meet some people from there in the Rose thing that I was at. I actually have a friend who lives in New Zealand. He's actually going to chiropractic college there. So, I mean, I knew a little bit more less maybe about the SCA out there and more about actually the Australia and New Zealand countries, just because there's a few things I'd like to try mundanely out in both those countries. So. Nice. You met people in Australia, didn't you? Or
Penzig. I think we met, a few people from the kingdom at Penzig, but I didn't know a lot. It's been enlightening. Like we listened to the last interview that you did, and I was like, oh yeah, the travel's insane, and I mean to be expected, right? So I just know if I go there, I want to stay away from dingoes
and kangaroos.
Yeah.
About the kangaroos.
I saw a kangaroo in Toronto. It was the most random thing.
Was it in a zoo?
It was a feeding thing that they were promoting it, but it was a red kangaroo, which we don't even see because they live right in the middle of Australia generally. Yeah, and they're different to the eastern, and usually we have grey kangaroos that bounce around everywhere. So where I live in Canberra, it's not unusual to see kangaroos bouncing down the middle of the street. Cool. But I've got a lot of bushland around, whereas where Lilya lives, it doesn't happen.
So did you guys know about Avacal before you actually contacted us?
A little bit.
I knew a little. I have a couple of friends who are in the SCA who are from Canada, and I also have a dear friend who came over to Australia and backpacked for a year, and I met him through my work at the time, and we gave him a one of our spare rooms to basically doss in. he was amazing. He's from Saskatchewan, so I still keep in contact with him. He's married now, 2 kids, but I send him Bonds t-shirts every now and again when he runs out.
Yeah, that's where we grew
That's
up.
actually where we are from.
Yeah, Saskatchewan.
Yeah. So he was amazing, absolutely hilarious, telling us stories about wrestling bears, like that it's a thing. And I was like, is that like a drop bear? Like that doesn't happen. He's like, no, occasionally you can at fairs and stuff. And I was like, no, dude.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of similarities, I think, between our countries. I think, right? There's a lot of like hunting, fishing, kind of that kind of thing, and certainly the indigenous population and that. I mean, there's a lot of similarities.
No bears, though.
Yeah.
No bears.
No bears.
We don't have
Oh.
roots. Yeah. So
We did have a couple come over to our Roney Festival, which is one of our big events, a couple of years ago. Corey and Dirk Vandersea. And it was amazing to meet them and to share that knowledge with them.
Yeah, they're good people. They have a cabin out at Quadwar, and they actually camp on site it's like their vacation home at the Quadwar site. So yeah,
oh, wow.
They live in our town here. Yeah, they're good people.
Oh, really? They were amazing. Such lovely people. And it was just awesome to have those visitors come across. And I was stewarding that Roney Festival, so I got to have a lot of conversation with Corey, particularly.
Yeah.
She actually came to my work, and she does a lot of mead making. That she's actually one of our accomplished brewers, and she decided that because I was supposed to have a mead tasting contest because I actually maybe liked the mead a little bit, so that was something I was having was a mead tasting contest in our kingdom where all the brewers could create meads and they could be awarded a queen's mead. So I would put my name on one of their meads. So she was very upset that we couldn't do this. So she came to my work with like 12 bottles of mead and said, "Here, just drink those."
Okay.
Very, very sweet lady.
Yeah. Well, and they're an interesting couple too because their kids were in the SCA, their children were in the SCA, and then they got them into the SCA. Right, so they're like the reverse of the other stories you hear, where it's like, oh, the parents were in the SCA and then the kids stayed. They're the opposite, right? Their children were in the SCA, and that's how they found it. So, cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
So when you were on tour, did you know Fuss or Fuss?
Throlfa Branson, Olfus.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was from Spokane, right?
Yes.
Where that's where my knight lived. So yeah, I knew him quite well, actually. Yeah. For sure. I follow him on Facebook now because he's down there, right?
Yeah, so we're going to have stories because he and I live in the same barony.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, we're friends. Yeah, so after this, there will be stories. Sorry.
That's a small world, yeah, because Booth is the same kind of group. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, Your Majesties. It has been such an amazing time to hang out and get to know you both.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. It was awesome. That flew by really quick.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. We've noticed that and have gone, maybe we should have made it longer, but after talking for an hour, you kind of feel like you've just been monopolizing the conversation, even though you haven't.
I'll talk 6 hours. It won't matter. So, okay, great. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both for coming and for getting the known world to be a little smaller and a little larger for those of us who want to encourage wayfaring. Hopefully one day we will get up to shenanigans together and have a drink across the fire. Thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody who is watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to our Facebook page, Crown Between Two Roses, and join us next week. We have some more exciting people my words have gone. Exciting crowns. Thank you guys and see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.